right, welcome back to another episode of the Digital Health Podcast. We have an amazing episode for you guys today. If this is your first time joining, my name is Anthony Virgo. I spent the last 7 years at a health tech startup, but now I've started my own AI transformation business along with my partner, Kazar. Kazar, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another amazing episode of Digital Health Podcast with another amazing guest. So, let me introduce myself, who are the brand new to this podcast. So, my name is Khazar Shahid, and I've been working in the healthcare domain for quite a while. I started with the dental practices. Then, when we collaborated together, we started working with a lot of other healthcare professionals. So, we are working with psychiatrists, psychologists, physiotherapists, and a lot of other healthcare professionals. So, this is the brief introduction about me. Now, I want to kick it over to our guest.
Hi, everybody. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm Dr. Prisacari. I'm a board certified adult psychiatrist. I am the owner and operator of ADHD Alliance of Minnesota, so I'm in private practice. I graduated University of Missouri for my medical school and residency training, went out into the real world and quickly realized of all of the healthcare struggles that our patients face every single day, from getting an appointment with a psychiatrist to getting their medications refilled, and just communicating with them on a daily basis. So that opened my eyes to all the barriers that we have, and I decided that, you know what, I can do it better, and I need to do it better for my patients. So that's why I am in private practice, and I focus on adults with ADHD. So I love the neurodivergent brain and helping them structure their day efficiently and get to their maximum potential. I'm excited to have this conversation with you guys.
Definitely. Thank you for just being open and, sharing your time with us. So we usually start the podcast off with one question to kind of understand how did we all get here, or how did you get here? Um, a lot of times people already know what they want to do in terms of healthcare. Like there are people who grow up who say, I want to be a doctor, and that's the journey that they take. Or I want to be a dentist, and that's the journey that they take. So there's been almost a theme with everyone we've interviewed. We have some people who already knew that this was the trajectory or the journey that they were going to go on. Or there's people like myself who kind of fell into healthcare by accident. So we really want to know, like, what was your journey? Using me, for example, I had a sales background before. I worked for Toyota for a long time. So I was actually selling cars, and then I got into healthcare. Two completely different worlds. But I've grown to fall in love with healthcare because of the impact that I've been able to make in the communities. But also, healthcare is an industry that allowed me to take my own health, or make my own health a priority as well. So just wanted to know, from your perspective, from your story, which side are you on, or how did your journey start?
It's a quite interesting story. So I come from an immigrant family. So I was born and raised in Moldova, which is a small country in Eastern Europe. Most people think it's not even real until you look it up. It's so small. But my family, we immigrated to the States when I was just 10 years old. And, coming from that background, we didn't know if we were going to have, any kind of education, advancement, or what kind of career would even be available to us, let alone like what we wanted to do when we grew up, right? So it was always just from that scarcity mindset of, am I going to make it to the next day or next year? Am I going to have enough food on the table? So the immigrant mentality was definitely there growing up, but I attended, public schools all through middle school, high school, graduated. Then I started getting good grades, good in math and science. And I went to a public university. I went to Iowa State University. And, I majored in biology, nutritional science, changed my major a couple times, studied abroad. And then it gradually started to get my footing, and got the feedback from my mentors, from my professors that, hey, you're good at this. You should consider medical school. You should do something with this. And I was always like, I don't know if I'm good enough. I had that imposter syndrome. But I applied anyway. I got in. And so I was always just one step at a time. It was never like a whole vision of this is where I'm going to end up, or I'm going to run my own company, or I'm going to have this many employees or anything. It was always just, let's just focus on the goal in front of us. Let's just take the MCAT. Let's just get into med school. Okay, we did that. What's next? Okay, let's go to orientation. Let's go to, and then just take all of the board exams. Then let's get into residency. So I love that because it's never putting too much pressure on myself, talking with my family. There's never expectations of why aren't you this, or that? Why didn't you get this internship or this position? It's always, we're just happy. We're proud of you. We're just happy that you're doing the best you can, and just come back with your accomplishments, whatever they are, or your struggles, and we'll love you no matter what.
Amazing. It sounds like the journey found you, basically.
Yeah, just along for the ride. And
Correct.
with that also, I don't know what the next 10, 15 years are going to bring either. I
Oh,
never thought I was going to be in private practice until I kind of ended up thinking that, this was the way to go. I thought it was just going to be a W-2 employee, salaried employee. Yeah, you never know what life is going to throw at you.
right, right. And I guess I'm assuming that's like, just like anyone who's taking a risk on themselves or betting on themselves, that's not an easy transition to make at all, to going privately. I guess what motivates you, or what would you say when you wake up motivates you to do what you do, especially like dealing with adults with ADHD? Like, how were you able to get that specific in terms of how you wanted to support the healthcare industry?
I saw so many things wrong with it, so many things not working, and so many times I tried to speak up and improve the process, and my feedback was not making a difference. The company was not receptive to it because of the systems in place, the barriers in healthcare with insurance companies, reimbursements, productivity metrics, all of those things. I learned really quickly about the kind of how complicated it is, and that it's really hard for one person to change the system. So it kind of fell into, well, I'm a motivated person. And I'm also one that feels really burnt out when I'm not sticking to my values, when I'm not
Mm,
sticking to things that are important to me.
right,
And that I just couldn't see myself being in that career long term if I didn't do something different. It was almost like an imperative, like, oh well, I have to switch it. I'll tell you a quick story. One of my good friends that's only a couple years older than me, in terms of like her psychiatry career, graduated
right.
in 2020 during the pandemic, and
Wow.
she's a great psychiatrist, and I admire her so much. And she was talking to me about how hard it is getting burnt out in her corporate job, and the kind of the restrictions that she has the on her time, and how quickly she has to see patients, and how
Right,
much she has to bill for it. And she is actually thinking about quitting, and she's only 2 years ahead of me.
right,
And I that just struck me because we are so much the same, so much alike. We have so many similarities. We went to the same program, we got the same training, we have so many things in common.
right,
And the system was affecting her so much that she says, I cannot provide this subpar care. I cannot compromise on my values.
right.
And she's thinking about switching out of medicine completely, all of that
Wow.
training, education,
Wow.
just leaving medicine. And when I started looking it up, there's all these studies coming out. The physicians are burning out, they're leaving medicine earlier. They used to call it early retirement, which kind of had a glorified feeling to it, that,
Yeah,
oh, you made so much money, you don't need to work anymore.
right,
But it's not that. It's they're saying that I cannot take it anymore. I need to switch careers, which is
right.
really sad. And so that was really opened my eyes that, it's not just theoretical person somewhere out in the world. It's one of my good friends that's going through this. And I'm like, is it going to be me in 2 years? Am I
Right,
going to quit? And I
right.
don't want that.
And
Yeah,
Vida, I
that's
was
oh
I was
man, that's
just going through your LinkedIn. So I think you have just started your own private practice just 5 months ago. Is it like this?
Yes. Yeah, just in January of 2026. Though it's still just a really baby, brand new project.
congrats,
And
congrats.
how is it going
Thank
so
you.
far?
It's going really well. I am really excited. There's a lot of interest in it, and it's a different way of doing things. It's private pay. People are so used to having to think that healthcare has to be complicated. In order to get to see a physician, you have to have a referral from your primary care doctor. You have to see who's in network with your insurance. You have to align all of these tasks. You get permission from one company, right? You have to get some complicated form or email. You have to phone call. You have to schedule 6 months in advance. They're used to that, but it doesn't have to be that way. And I am kind of rewriting the rules. I'm saying, look, let's simplify it. I'm a physician. Like, I know what I'm doing. I have all the credentials. Just come talk to me. Let's take out the middleman. Let's not use insurance. In order for me to just have a livable wage, like these just flat fees. Like, here's $500 for a new appointment, $200 for monthly follow-up. That's all it is. There's no hidden costs. And I help with diagnosis of ADHD and treatment of ADHD. I prescribe medications that are FDA approved, that are standard of care. So, it's a gold quality standard. You're not getting somebody that just did like some, marginal training online or from some, not respected university that's not certified. I've went through all my training. I'm very transparent with what my education is, my training is. I'm very proud of it. I think I'm good at what I do, but I also want to be accessible to just the everyday person that has ADHD, that is getting into all of these obstacles. The healthcare system is so broken, and it doesn't have to be that way. Just, all it takes is just filling out a form on my website, and then from there, I've created the systems that I reach out to you and I make it easy so that you don't have to worry about anything. You're going to get a follow-up email. You're going to get a link to your website, like to the free consultation, and you get to meet me. I'm the real person there. And anytime you have a question, phone call, text, you get to talk to me, not an assistant, not a call center, not another triage, somebody that's filling in for me. Yeah, so it's just totally different way of doing things. And I'm excited. I think there's a lot of interest.
So it seems that you are not
Definitely.
facing any hurdles so far, because whenever you start a new business or whenever you
Right.
start a new practice, you face a lot of problems. So, but it seems that you are doing good, and it's going smooth for you so far.
Well, I'm in Minneapolis, which is a really big city. So I think the biggest hurdle right now is getting my name out there, because people don't, again, don't expect for a new person to show up, right? They're
Right.
used to the things that, even if they're broken, even if they're difficult, just human nature, we're set in our ways. We know what's predictable. We know what to expect. And it's really hard to be creative or almost kind of innovative,
Right.
right? When you have a task in front of you and you're like, I need to see a psychiatrist, it's just easy to go the route that, you've always done it. So it's hard to get somebody to do a Google search for a
Yeah.
psychiatrist instead of asking their primary care doctor, to use insurance and to go through the traditional route. I think that is going to be just the shift that I'm really working on, educating the public, not just me. That's just an example. I'm a psychiatrist, but say, yeah, you need to see a dentist, or you need
Right.
to see a physical therapist, or even a psychologist. There's so many great professionals out there that are tired of working in that insurance-based system and want to provide quality care. And all it takes is just looking at it from, like, let's do a Google search. Let's ask ChatGPT. Let's ask, who is out there,
Right.
instead of being just limited by the network.
Definitely, definitely. And I think that's the main difference between people who are like striving for like on the insurance side versus like the private side. Because to me, it sounds like you're super more intentional or purposeful with either your clients or even just how you do things versus you being held back by like a traditional system. It's it's kind of sort of like my story almost. It's like we're in this industry to do great things, but sometimes you get into a system that isn't gonna allow you to be as great as you possibly can be, or where you see your talents fit, right? Versus on the
100%.
practice side, you're like, this is simple, private pay, come and see me. You're gonna talk to me, not go through this rabbit hole. We're gonna, get a lot of this done. I
Yeah.
guess my question is because we often well, I'm not gonna say we. I know for myself, when I think of ADHD, I often equate it to like adolescents or kids and stuff
Mhm.
like that. Rarely do I hear about ADHD in adults. So I guess, or even I feel like I just hear more stories or see more stories about ADHD in younger people. What are some misconception about ADHD for adults that the average person might not know about, or who is someone that should seek support from you?
100%. I love this question. Well, ADHD is a neurodevelopmental disorder, which means that it does show up in childhood. And that's part of the DSM-5 criteria. It always has been and always will be. So yes, so the symptoms have to start in childhood, but that doesn't mean that you grow out of it. For the longest time, that's what pediatricians used to tell parents and families. It's like, yeah, they're probably going to grow out of it. It's something that you're just dealing with right now while you're in school, but not necessarily. Yes, the human brain frontal lobe continues to develop into early 20s, but that doesn't mean that your symptoms of ADHD are going to go away. What could happen, and I often see, is that people tell me stories of how they learn to compensate or mask the symptoms of ADHD. I was just talking with somebody yesterday that said, well, I wasn't diagnosed with ADHD until college. Guess what? Why? Because in high school, their parent was supervising everything, was almost like a personal assistant, and outside external brain that was monitoring productivity, that was monitoring being, submitting papers on time, completing homework, studying, setting those smaller goals, chunking into like smaller things instead of a huge overwhelming project. Those are all skills that we teach with ADHD, like how to learn to live with it. But without being diagnosed properly with ADHD and being on treatment with medications or therapy, this individual just had a parent that was kind of a substitute for that. And so the diagnosis got delayed. And it wasn't until college, when they went off, and of course, parent wasn't there, that they actually saw their grades decline, and almost to the point of getting let go, dismissed from college. And then when they had all of this kind of negative consequences of, what is wrong with me? I thought I was a high performer. I got straight A's in high school. Why am I struggling so much? Then getting the evaluation, the diagnosis felt like a relief. It's like, oh, this makes more sense. I didn't know I was struggling because my parent wouldn't let me get to the point where I was failing, right? They were the external kind of motivator there. So that's a common misconception, is that if you didn't get diagnosed in childhood, you don't have ADHD. That's not true. It may be that you were masking, or that your environment was so structured and controlled that it was just not showing up. And then the other thing is that I often am now seeing more women that are going through perimenopause that are for the first time noticing the ADHD symptoms come up. There's something about these changes in the hormones with estrogen going down in perimenopause. That's when the ADHD symptoms really flare up. So again, they were compensating with using external structure. Maybe they were really high achieving. They were writing things down in planners, reminders. With technology these days, oh my gosh, so many people are saying, I can manage my ADHD just because I have Siri, or I have ChatGPT, and then they're just helping me, prompt me where on my timelines, when is things due, breaking it down into smaller things, habit stacking. And it's not until perimenopause that they have brain fog, more fatigue, just the changes in the hormones too, that they're coming in and they're like, actually, I think I've had this all along, but now it's so bad that I think I need medication support.
So Vera, you just mentioned the
Yeah,
chat
so it's
GPT
lots of
and
different presentations. But
so Vera, you just mentioned the chat GPT and Siri. So let's shift our conversation towards the technology. So are you the one who supports the AI, or are you the one who doesn't have any thoughts about AI right now? But I think you're so young, you might be the one who believes a lot in AI. Because
oh
whenever
my
we
goodness, that's a great question, because I knew you were going to ask it. It's because I think you ask every person on your podcast, right? Like, where do you land on it?
Right, right.
Well, I'm definitely pro. I think AI is here to stay. It's not a question of if it's going to be around, it's how do we use it as a tool that's valuable. A lot of people had concerns just the same when Google came on the to the scene, and there was more information on the internet, and all of a sudden everyone had a blog, or there was Reddit, and all of these websites keep coming up, and there's always starts out with hesitation, but we adapt to it and we adjust to it. And it reminds me when I was going through like adolescence and high school, college, Photoshop was really big. And but the human brain is smart. We adjust to it. We learn what the parameters are, right? And we're like, we start to pick up on it, right? So those big glossy magazines where it was like unrealistic beauty standards, we found the flaws in it, right? We learned to find like, oh, that's where Photoshop made a mistake. And now we kind of laugh at it. It's like, oh, look how bad they were with Photoshop. Like, of course that's not real. And I think now we kind of have that reemergence of, well, this is AI. Yes, maybe it's text, but we see those long dashes, right? We're like, ah, AI wrote this. We see those bulleted lists. We're like, this is AI swap, right? This is not written by a human. Or we see AI generated videos or images, and we're like, okay, the shadows don't align, or there's glitches there. So that's fascinating, because the human brain, we can expand and we can learn more from it. So, yeah, I guess if we're stuck of always just thinking of an image as a photograph, that's, we've come so far from it. Like, that's not always that easy. So let's learn more about the technology, learn how to integrate it, learn how to use it as a tool. Let's see, what are the positive ways? How can we implement it so that it's part of delivering better quality healthcare and more efficiently, and not making it the focus of healthcare, but using it as like a tool. It shouldn't be the center, but it should come along for the ride to make it even better.
I love that. I love that. I think you, you hit the nail on the head because it seems like there's people who are right are not for it. They're not even using it on their day to day or know the benefits of it. It's like there's like we all in a sense know how to use a hammer, but we don't know how to build a house. Well, at least I don't know how to build a house.
Yeah, no.
Maybe you do, but
Yeah.
it didn't sound like you went that down that trajectory to build a house. So, but we all know how to use a hammer, and AI is almost the same as a tool. And how we implement it, it's almost the same way. You have so many people who are so oblivious to what it can do and how to use it. A lot of people, so a little bit about like what we do for our AI transformation company is we help people actually adapt AI and use it on a day to day. So it's not just making an AI agent that does intake or book appointments and then we're like, see you later. We're like, hey, this is how you use it. This is how you upgrade it. We're here along for the ride to help you implement this on a day to day. And I think that's what a lot of people are missing, especially in the healthcare industry, because we're seeing less, especially, I mean, it's different from being on a private side where you can actually be a free thinker and say, hey, I want to implement this. But when you're on the traditional side of things or something that's more structured, it's hard for people to even adapt this technology. You said something earlier where, how our minds were adopting to Photoshop. We might have thought it was real when we first saw it, but now our minds adapt to where, okay, that is Photoshop or that's AI slop. I think it's the same way. Our minds are going to adapt to how AI could be of service to us. And then that's how we would implement it. We always say that being that we have expertise in the healthcare and the dental field, um, I'm always advocating for if you're gonna do AI or work with somebody who's implementing AI, don't just get a regular software developer. Get someone who actually has expertise in your domain or in your niche, because now they're going to be looking at it from not just building an agent. They're going to be say, how do I build an agent that's HIPAA compliant and that's also receptive to someone who has ADHD and things of that nature. So you're able to kind of curate it a lot more beneficial to a use case if you're working with someone who is a specialist in that niche. Like, we're not doing AI for like hotels or anything like that. Not to say I can't build an agent that do something for a hotel, but that's just not my expertise. Healthcare is where we sit in and things like that. So we always suggest that people who are skeptical about AI, one, use ChatGPT on your day off or whenever, get download the app and get familiar with it. And then two, work with people who are experts in whatever you're doing and try to make it work or integrate AI for sure.
It's definitely a different way of thinking of type. Like you see that blank screen, just like a Google search, right? But you like the blank screen of the AI bot, and you're like, what do I type in? Well, it's so overwhelming. There's just, you know that it's so much smarter. You
Mhm.
know that it has access to everything on the internet. It can almost feel like paralyzing. Where do I begin?
Right,
I found what was helpful for me was watching like YouTube tutorials of
right,
somebody like working and learning and like
right,
here's an example prompt, right? And like here's a couple other sentences that you can add in to make it really truly helpful, right?
right, right,
Like giving it more instructions, learning, like giving it background information, like use this file as your parameters, or like here's my tone of voice, make it approachable, friendly, or make it more professional and authoritative,
right,
and like, oh wow, I didn't know. And it's like, give me references, give me so I could double check the work, ask me any additional questions so that I can further improve on this.
right,
The days of like just help me write a blog post on this topic are long gone. Nobody wants to
right.
read that. The engagement is going to be zero. People realize that that's fake, right? That you need to be creative. You need to have that human aspect to it.
Mhm.
But using AI as a tool, bringing it along and harnessing it to its full ability, and that's going to continue to grow.
1000%. And that's what we honestly, at least that's the place where we come from, of how we build. We're always telling people we're not building AI. We always say that we build AI for everyday people. So the everyday person who might be skeptical about it or don't or have these questions, those are the people we support and want to advocate for because we know that this is a technology that's it's game changing. It's almost like when telehealth was very new or telemedicine where people were like, people are going to see doctors on the computer. That's never going to work. Post pandemic, we're seeing doctors on the computer and it's working, right? People are, we're even finding that people are a lot more open, like taking therapy that has like this crazy stigma around it. Now we're able to kind of talk to a therapist in the comfort of our own home. So now we're in our own environment and we're able to open up a lot more because of telehealth, because of this technology
Well, that's
that now
interesting you
exists.
bring that up. What do you think about people using AI chatbots for therapy as a substitute? Like,
Yeah, so that's interesting because we get a lot of requests to either build like AI companions and stuff like that and build it up. So I'm gonna answer it from both this AI side of me and the healthcare side of me, right? Two perspectives. So I personally feel like in a scenario where someone is like seeking some type of consultant from AI, I think it's beneficial when you're like brainstorming or almost like a virtual journal, like personal development. I
right?
think that's a real benefit of it because now I think it allows someone to do a lot of the personal reflection on their own, especially with AI. Like I talk to my chat GPT like it's a person every day,
Yeah.
because I just feel like we have that relationship now. Like, you know what I mean?
Do you think that the chatbot gives you back creative ideas, or does it regurgitate the same point of view that you're already putting in and just validates?
So, I think it really varies on the user and how they prompt the chat
Right. It's almost
GPT
like
or
it's
the
up to
memory.
you to give it good
Everything
prompts, which if
right.
you don't have that training, if you don't have that mindset, you're at risk of getting kind of a garbage answer.
1000%. So that's why I always advocate for people to kind of use it, get familiar with it. The good thing about ChatGPT is depending on the plan that you have, it has memory, so it's able to
Mhm.
understand you a lot better. So for me, it's given me ideas from the perspective of everything that I told it or my background. So
Yeah.
although it's specific to me, it's not. It's it's given me a specific answer based on like my goals and my values that I've shared with it almost. So it's not gonna say so I guess it really depends on the use case. That's where my healthcare hat come in, where it's just like, you got to be careful with how you're interacting with it or what it's saying or what it's feeding back, or just use it as a grain of salt, right? It's never gonna be a professional right? It's never gonna be something that take you take what it says and then you run off and go with it. That's not what AI is, and I don't even think it's meant to do that. It's really to support you. So on one hand, I'm like, for journaling, for personal reflection, for a lot of that, I love the idea of it, because now now we're in a phase or in an era of life where personal reflection is almost like it's now at the palm of our hands versus before. I think I speak from like a man's perspective. It's just like, oh, shut up about your feelings and go
Right.
about your day. I think it's given us openness to share and be more reflective. If if AI is used that way, to answer your question.
See it as a way to store, to organize, to kind
Hmm.
of clarify your thoughts.
Right.
But one thing that's unique about one-on-one individual therapy, and I'm not a therapist, but I work closely with a lot of therapists,
Right.
is that they bring in new ideas. They
Mm.
challenge your thoughts. That's where the growth happens. A good therapist will call you out when your actions are not consistent with your goals.
Right.
A good therapist will, maybe even have a little bit of a negative feeling, like you're gonna walk away kind of a little bit ruptured, like a little bit
Right.
of, oh, I was like, I'm not sure I like that they called
Hmm.
me out on it.
Hmm.
But then comes the repair, and then
Right.
you come to it and you're like, actually, I'm glad that you told me to have that hard conversation. You told me, like my negative behavior, or my bad habits were affecting me that way. I don't think a chatbot would do that.
Yeah.
A chatbot is probably just going to reinforce what you're already giving it.
Well, it depends. Like I said, I think the good thing about AI is that it's changing and it's getting better with time.
Yeah.
So what I found, what I would say is, it's super intentional about how it gives you the information once you're training it. If you're not using it on a day to day, then it's not going to get better over time. You're going to get the sense that it's giving you almost the generic stuff. But if
Yeah.
you're like interacting with it, you'll start to see the changes or hear the changes. Like I could tell my chat GPT, like, hey, I want to go plan a trip to Jamaica for 3 months and plan it out for me.
Perfect. I think
Right.
AI is
Right.
great for replacing travel agents, and to even like give it specific sources of like model it after like this trip itinerary. Oh,
Right.
fantastic.
Perfect. So it'll do that, but it will also say, okay, but Anthony, remember you have a 3-year-old son. How are you gonna incorporate your son into this 3-month plan? Let's think about, you know what I mean? It gets super
Understandable.
intentional once you start to, interact with it. And I always say, forget the typing and the prompting. Talk to it. Use voice mode. Talk to it, because it's able to you're able to be more free in talking to it, but also it's
Mhm.
dissecting how you talk and what's important to you a lot better than typing something. At least that's what I suggest, or that's what I've seen.
But there's actually now new studies showing that like people that are prone to some paranoia or
Mhm.
paranoid delusions, the AI bots are now kind of feeding into it, and it's worsening their symptoms
Wow.
because they're kind of a vulnerable population,
All right.
and they're putting in prompts of like, I think people at work are talking about me. It starts out really small,
Right.
like, oh, I think the neighbors are spying on me. And of course, a human would kind of have kind of a healthy level of skepticism. Be like,
Right.
are they really? Like, I know your neighbors. They seem like nice people. But
Right.
an AI bot is going to be like validating. It's going to say, well, here's, maybe you should close your windows, close your blinds, and, don't engage with them. If you feel at risk,
Right.
call the police.
Right.
So there's also like that side of it. I know I don't treat people with psychosis or schizophrenia,
Hmm.
but that's the publications that are now coming out. The research is like, how is AI affecting people that have paranoia
Right.
or some psychotic disorders?
Definitely. Yeah, I do think there's a balance with this thing. It's almost like when social media first came out. Nobody knew what the effects would be, but now
Yeah.
we know what social media is doing to our people. So I really think it's a technology that is gonna take some getting used to. I think it does have more value than not, but we'll see, right? We're in the beginning stages of this thing. I think I guess I'll leave off with two questions for you. Um, One, what's the best channels to reach out to you just in case someone heard something that you said or, wanted to reach out? They might be in Minnesota somewhere or, want to hear what
Yeah.
you have to say or think you're interested. What's the best channels to contact you? And then also, what's one powerful message you want to leave with the listeners? Whether it's about AI, whether it's about anything we talked about or anything from your personal life, anything powerful you want to share with them.
Yeah. So the best way to reach out to me, find me on ADHD Alliance of Minnesota.com. You could schedule a free consult on there. It has my availability, no commitment, no fees. Just get to know me. See if you're in Minnesota, you have to be in the state of Minnesota. So that's my licensing there. But I'm a psychiatrist. I love talking to people of all walks of life and how they end up finding me. It's so interesting. A lot of patients are telling me they found me through AI bots. And like
Mm-hmm.
they ask, who's the best psychiatrist dealing with ADHD in Minnesota? And I'll come up with a list, and they're like, okay, let me reach out to them. So
Right.
it's fascinating. But the one piece of advice I will kind of leave off with is if you are not getting the quality care from whoever your provider is now, ask for a second opinion. Advocate for yourself. Don't stay with a physician. Now we're supposed to use the word provider or prescriber just to include more individuals there, but
Right.
don't stay with them just because that's what your insurance requires. Don't stay with them just because that's who your neighbor recommended or what you've always done. Really be an advocate for your mental health and look for who else is out there. If somebody better is around, do your research and ask what is going to be the best thing for you. Because whether you're, going to need a psychiatrist today or tomorrow, or somebody, that don't just take the first person that is
Right.
offered to you. If it's not a good fit, your outcome, like the health, like how much you're going to get better is going to totally reflect and totally depend on the relationship on that with your physician, right? If
Right.
you guys are not connecting, if you're withholding some information, you're not saying something, you're sharing something, you're afraid they're going to judge you, that's going to affect the advice that they give you, even if they're the best physician in the world.
Right.
So, make sure that you can trust them, that you can relate to them, that you like them. That's who has the best outcomes. That's who's going to feel better, who's going to get better. Because whether whatever specialty you go with, but especially in psychiatry, because that's our physical exam, is
Right.
we just talk to people.
Right. 1000%. That's spot on. I appreciate that last message because I even say, even throwing my sales hat back on,
Mhm.
we have this thing in sales where we know that people buy or do business with people they like, trust, and respect, right? So
Yeah.
even me, my primary care physician is someone that I like, trust, and respect. Like he knows I have a 3-year-old son. I know that he has a house in Florida that he goes on vacation to. Like there's so much, it makes it so much easier when you're talking about whatever you're talking about with someone that you trust and have this rapport with. So I think always getting a second opinion, especially when something's off, especially once you guys don't have like the chemistry. Obviously, look for something else, not just because your parents been going to the same doctor forever, or he has X amount of stars on ZocDoc. Really do your due diligence.
No, absolutely.
Thank you.
And a healthy amount of self-disclosure too. That's something new. People used to really think that doctors have to be professional 100% of the time, which means you have to be like a machine and
Right.
only talk about medicine. But that's not the case at all. I really like sharing with people. It's like, hey, this is my community too. I live here. You might see me at the grocery store. Say hi if you want to.
Right.
I'm gonna be respectful and not break confidentiality. But like if you want to say hi, you see me, by
Right.
all means. Or like, yeah, I have my family here. This is where yeah, my kid goes to daycare. You might see me at the gym. Like, and you're a real person, and people
Right.
appreciate that, especially in the age of AI. People really want you to feel human too.
Right. 1000%. Well, Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you for being on the Digital Health Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
This has been amazing. I'm pretty sure our listeners are going to get a ton of value, and we can't wait to have a part two. We think we're going to have a part two with you because there might be something different by time the end of the year happens, right? AI might take
Yeah,
over. We might have a different conversation.
for sure. Well, let me know, and I will give you updates of how it's affecting my practice and just kind of like my world too. I'm happy to help. This is such a fun conversation.